हम करके दिखाते हैं.
Hello and welcome. This is Devika Diwan. Today I have the honor and privilege of interviewing a highly distinguished guest. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me Lt General V.K. Ahluwalia, the author of A General's Odyssey, Giving Up is Not an Option. Sir, welcome to NewsX.
Thank you, Devika, for getting me on your show.
General Ahluwalia, your memoir, if I may call it, is powerfully titled Giving Up is Not an Option. You've started the book with a very dramatic knee injury in 1971, which could have, for all we know, put an end to your dream of being a part of the military. However, today you sit before us, an army commander, so we know that didn't happen.
Yes.
What I want to understand from you, sir, is can you share an anecdote from your military life where this motto of yours, giving up is not an option, was profoundly tested besides the knee injury?
No, I think the beginning has to be from the knee injury itself. Okay. It was so traumatic that the senior advisor in orthopedics, after he operated me, he informed my father that the injury is so severe that his knee itself has got impacted. That his kneecap, patella, has got fragmented into several pieces. And therefore, he said to my father that your son may be unfit for the army and that we may have to medically discharge him. That means board him out. So you're right when you said that having done more than 5 years in the Sainik School, 3 years in the National Defense Academy, never in a hospital at all, I would say that I suddenly realized that my dream of becoming an officer, which was the dream most sought of in the 70s, had come to a dead end. How do I get over this? Great amount of anxiety, fear, apprehensions. But once my cast was opened, I suddenly realized that yes, they are surmountable. Mind has to accept this particular challenge. And once my mind accepted this challenge, I realized that I think I will not give up. And that was the start point of ensuring. Now you're asking me what are the other areas where actually I've had this kind. I would say one of the most challenging assignment that I have done, although I have commanded my regiment for some time in Rajouri. On promotion, I commanded an infantry brigade on the line of control between Uri and Gulmarg sector, opposite the Haji Pir Pass. On promotion, I went on to command the mountain division in Kargil, and again on promotion, I went to command the corps in Leh Ladakh, Siachen area. My command of the infantry brigade in the year 2001-2002, when the insurgency was at its peak, and the violence by the terrorists was again at the peak, at the highest amount. No day was the same. And there were a number of occasions we used to get information about the terrorist movement. And every day our resolve was that we got to take them on.
Yes.
Both in time and space. There were a number of occasions where we found that they were getting across. In fact, they at one point of time targeted me itself. In which there was on a terrorist network which said that they wanted to target Commander 161 Infantry Brigade.
Mm-hmm. And that was you?
That was me. And I was required to travel on that particular road the very next day. But I can tell you that we have one of the finest officers, finest men that the army can boast of. And the kind of spirit that they showed me gave me the impression that we are not going to give up. Whatever may have been told by the terrorists on the network, we said we'll make sure that we will travel on the road certainly the next day, which we did, to defeat the designs of the terrorists. So the aim is not to give up. The aim is to move on.
General Ahluwalia, what did that feel like? I'm sure there were so many such moments in your life as part of the military where in a way you met the thought of death.
Yeah.
How does one deal with that?
You see, once you're convinced about a particular project, or an operation. When I say this, that means we have done all the due diligence. We have taken care of all the aspects about ourselves, about the enemy. Then I think once we have made up our mind, then I think we have to go full hog to ensure that we don't give up, we reach our objective. I want to make a mention that some of our leaders, military leaders as also the corporate leaders, who have shown much higher tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty. That means navigating ambiguous and uncertain environment. They have accepted, they have said that challenges are not obstacles. They are actually opportunities to be successful in the mission. I can quote any number of examples of our own Indian military leaders who have shown much higher tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty, and they have been most successful. They have taken those challenges as also as a stepping stone to higher echelons. So I think there have been a number of occasions where one meets very, very difficult circumstances, but once you make up your mind, then we must move ahead.
And at the same time, General Ahluwalia, I want to understand from you, you had a slightly rough beginning. And we've just spoken about your knee injury as well, but in the book, you've spoken about how there were senior officers who really believed in you, and they helped you push forward and achieve this dream of being in the military. So how did that sort of help you in your years as a senior officer in terms of just understanding a very human side of other young officers who may be facing their own trials and tribulations as you were?
Devika, you have to understand that first it begins with oneself. They say, know yourself, know your men, and know your enemy. First, we have to understand our own strengths and weaknesses. And the moment you identify certain weaknesses, you have to improve on those. Your sense of commitment, your sense of responsibility, sense of loyalty and integrity, they are some major parts of a army organization. And that, I'm sure, every senior in the organization recognizes that. No? So when you make a mention that some of my seniors have been so very good to me, it is first to begin with me, that they realize that here we have an officer who is so committed, so responsible, that once a task is given to him, you take it that the job will be done. So also as a senior, when we look at our officers, I would say in the book you will find that there is a mention about one officer called Captain Mark when I was commanding the infantry brigade on the line of control. He was a very young officer with just about 6 years service. But the kind of responsibility that he shouldered, kind of commitment that he showed, suddenly made me feel that I have a wonderful officer with me. So I think, it is all actually how you see the officers performing under you. One more issue I must make a mention. A few years ago, Stanford Research Institute had done a study on leadership, in which they made a mention that management is only about 20% knowledge. 80% is about navigating human connection, human relationship. That is very true, even in an environment when you have technology so very predominant.
But so do you agree that emotional intelligence does play a very significant role, even if it comes to military leadership, which in our minds is very structured, very objective?
Yeah, just as I mentioned that 80% is about navigating human relationships, human connection. It is part of the emotional intelligence. That means not only about yourself, you have to understand all your men and their aspirations, their hopes. I think that makes all the difference.
And now coming to some of the pioneering work, sir, that you've been a part of, and you've mentioned in the book as well, a very interesting operation called Green Curtain. While you were serving in Kargil, while you were serving in some of the most difficult terrains in the world. If you can just shed some light on that for our viewers, what is it that you saw on those pillars when you were visiting that particular area, and how did you come up with this completely unique concept which actually got you a lot of national accolades and attention?
Devika, thank you for asking this question. I must say that I assumed command of the mountain division in Kargil on 1st January 2005. It was minus 30 degrees Celsius. It was snow all around. But on the very third day, I said, I want to first go and pay homage to the fallen soldiers, the heroes of 99 conflict. So on the third day, I drove from Kargil to Dras to also see Tiger Hill, Tolo Ling, Batra Top, point 4875 for myself as the features on which we actually fought the 99 conflict. As we drove along, I was quite surprised, intrigued to find cautionary boards on the roadside which read, caution, oblique, or beware, enemy is watching you, दुश्मन आपको देख रहा है. As I drove further, I found one more board. I stopped at that board and found, yes, that's fact. The enemy is dominating this road axis both by fire and observation, what we'll call in a military jargon. And I asked the accompanying commanders and the commanding officers, these boards have been there for quite some time, but what have we done about it? And if we have not done anything about it, what can we do now? Of course, there were some very good responses. But when I analyzed all the responses, it gave me an impression that they all were actually amounting to status quo. No change. I was very uncomfortable to see those 4 cautionary boards at different places. That's precisely one of the reasons why the Pakistani regulars, including some Mujahideen, came and occupied those heights in late 98 or early 99, right? After 3 days of mulling over this problem, I called for a conference on the 7th of January. That means within 7 days, I felt let me have a dialogue with my commanders. At the end of the conference, I floated this idea of having a green curtain. What does it mean? A green curtain means plant willows and poplars. Poplars go straight, willows grow sideways, punctuated with some medicinal plants called junipers, on the enemy side of the road, so that you blind the enemy and screen your own activities.
Wow, okay.
That means after about 15 years, when they all grow up to a good height, then you will find that you will actually have achieved the aim of creating a green curtain. I floated the idea. It was certainly not acceptable as the human behavior is. They were right in one way. They said that it's a cold, arid desert. Nothing grows here. And it is not our job to plant trees. So I said, Charles Darwin, who said 2 centuries ago, it is not the strongest of species that survive, nor the most intelligent ones. It is the ones who are adaptable to change, unquote. Which actually means if you want to improve an organization, if you want to improve operational effectiveness, we actually have to change. And today, in the world which is changing at such a fast pace, my advice would be that we have to shed traditional and conventional mindset to be adaptable to change. But then I realized that there was one Captain Little Heart of the British Army of World War Vintage 1 and 2. He died in 1970. He said very famously in the book, The Indirect Approach, and I quote, "The only thing harder than getting a new idea into military mind is to get the old one out," unquote. So I was in the dilemma, what should we do? So I must say that, I had the courage to say, we will go ahead with the plantation when the snow melts, but we will make sure that no army person will be employed to plant the trees. We have sufficient funds given for separate purpose. Let us give employment to the local community of Kargil, and they will look after, they will create tree guard, they will create water channels, and they will plant the trees once the snow melts. My requirement is that only 20% survival is required and nothing more. The idea of green curtain was implanted and everyone accepted. We did that, and planted trees by end of April. By August, we realized the survival rate was anything between 25% to 35%.
Wow, okay.
It was amazing. And based on the directions of the Army headquarters, we made a presentation, and you'll be surprised to know that in the year 2005, Army, the division from Kargil, was awarded the Green Governance Award for conservation of flora.
Wow.
Right? It is called the BNHS Green Governance Award. And I was specifically invited to Vigyan Bhavan to receive that award from the Honorable Prime Minister of the country on 10th November 2005. This was a concept called strategic, ecological, economic. All the three were there in this. And it is very strange that you conceive a project, you have resistance, you implement, it works, and you are rewarded, all within 10 months.
Is that something that's still going on? Have you had a chance to look at where the project stands today? Because you said it would take, of course, many years. So if you're talking about 2005, we're now 20 years later. So is that flora and fauna still flourishing?
Yeah, another question that you asked is a very important one. That what is the status of that particular green curtain now?
Yes.
Right? After about 2-3 years, the road was being widened.
Ah, okay.
So therefore, that complete green curtain as it was supposed to be, actually some portions of those actually got destroyed.
But at least the army today knows.
The concept remains.
Yes.
The concept remains, and I'm sure the army continues to plant wherever it is feasible. So I think more important is the concept,
yes,
which remains with the army.
Absolutely. Excellent. Similarly, sir, I want to understand you've served in extremely high altitude regions, Kargil, Leh, then of course the Uri sector as well. We'll come to your time looking at terrorism in India a little later. But as far as high altitude terrains are concerned, what were some of the biggest operational challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
See, high altitude terrain has a great number of challenges. To a civilian, it may look like a very pristine and a good place to visit as a tourist. But when you look at the places where our troops are deployed,
yes,
they are deployed anything between 10,000 feet to 20,000 feet and even beyond. As you keep going higher, as you're aware, it's not only one is the weather conditions in terms of, it is actually speaking, Dras is considered to be the second coldest region of the world.
Yes.
Temperatures can drop as to minus 45 degrees Celsius. As you go higher, there are certain posts on which the troops go up in the month of October, they only come back much later.
Wow.
So my point is that there are a great amount of challenges from the point of view of reduced oxygen levels, which actually affects the lungs and what we call some of those which affect the troops, right? Isolation, psychological impact on the, therefore the leadership actually has the highest role in those very difficult, rugged, mountainous terrains at very high altitudes, where you know that once you're perched on a post, you can't even move out unless taken out by helicopter. Because any movement during those snow times has a great danger of avalanches.
Yes.
And the number of times it can happen that a avalanche gets triggered and people can get under them. So one has to only visit to have a look at them. The terrain, the weather condition, the wind shear effect, the lack of communication, physical connectivity in those areas at the point. And then during operations, you got an enemy in front of you. There is an active line of control and there is a firing which keeps taking place. So it's a combination of all that, then it's a very difficult terrain. But I must tell you this, if you ever go and visit any of these, our troops are on the highest motivation level. The morale is so good that we today have improved the conditions and the facility to a very high level. So
how does one physically and mentally train themselves? Because essentially, General Ahluwalia, not everyone is born in those terrains, right? Our belief is that if you're born, for example, if I'm a child born in Leh, I would be accustomed since birth to a lower level of oxygen. We also see videos of, for example, children in Nepal who are running up and down the mountainous terrain, but all of us would, me as a civilian surely would face a lot of difficulty. So how does one train themselves physically and also mentally so quickly in the army?
okay, now you see, you can have troops moving from Trivandrum. They could be moving from Jaipur
Yes.
or Jodhpur. So I think Army has structured a wonderful package to ensure that all our troops get fully acclimatized on the level at which they are going to be deployed, right? That means we start different stages of acclimatization. That means the troops would spend minimum 2 weeks at this level, and they will do certain amount of exercises. It's not that they just stay there. No.
Right.
It is also to ensure that they have the right kind of exercises, right kind of nutritious food being given to them, and the facilities being made available. Then they move to the next stage, which may be, say, 12,000 feet. Again, they would actually stay there for whether 10 days or 12 days and acclimatize themselves so that the lung power starts developing. And once they are found to be fit, a medical examination is done, they move to the next stage. So actually speaking, it's not only physical portion that is taken care of, the mental, emotional, psychological, all these aspects are taken care of. And the leadership in this plays a very important role, right? And today, of course, one very good thing that has happened is that we have technology-enabled systems to enable our troops to speak home.
Okay.
That is one of the biggest motivation factor for everyone, that you are able to speak to your families very often.
Okay.
Yeah? So that's a very important portion.
Absolutely. General Ahluwalia, now coming to your time in, say, terrorist-infested areas such as Uri, one of the most troublesome sectors that we've seen over the years. What do you feel has changed in terms of terror infestation today, sir, versus the time when you served?
First part, we have to understand that right from the time when Pakistan had General Haq, who coined this phrase, "We'll bleed India with 1,000 cuts."
Yes.
Everything else may change, but that particular portion of the Pakistan's thought process has not changed. Okay, so one has seen this from 1989 onward for the last 35, 36 years, that Pakistan has continued to bleed India by 1,000 cuts. Only thing that there has been ups and downs in this activity, proxy war or low intensity conflict, but this has remained all throughout. If you're asking now, what is the situation now? Please have a look at the historical perspective. Let me just give you, 99 we had the Kargil, I'm just giving an example. 99 we had the Kargil conflict, when our Prime Minister had gone across in February on a bus diplomacy. At that point of time, they actually were moving into the Kargil heights. That means they can be so very deceitful, right? And then we had Kargil. 99 it happened. 2 years later, I'm only giving you very major incidents. Our parliament was attacked. A year later, attack on the Raghunathji temple in Jammu in 2002 twice, and the Akshardham in Gujarat was attacked. Our military garrison at Kaluchak on 10th of May 2002 was attacked. So the point is, we have to understand this has continued to remain for all these many years. It didn't stop there. You look at 2008, Mumbai, right? There have been attacks in the IT city. My thought process is that we are a sovereign, democratic, secular republic. Pakistan has tried to defeat the very idea of India. That means secular. Do you see what actually happened in Pahalgam?
Yes.
They tried to segregate based on religion. So secular, democratic, they attack the parliament of the country, the democracy of the country. They attack the financial hub of the country in Mumbai. Serial blasts. So I am of the view that you may have a little low for some time, but we have to remain fully prepared.
General Ahluwalia, what does that mean today? I want to understand your thoughts a little bit on Operation Sindoor as well. Of course, and as it has been reiterated many times now, that we managed to hit precisely 9 targets within 23 minutes, and it was an unprecedented level of military efficiency, which we got to witness as Indians as well, as civilians as well. But we do see that warfare is changing constantly. We don't necessarily today see war tanks going to borders to fight a war. We've seen that, for example, in the Israel-Hamas conflict, in the Israel-Iran conflict, be it the Russia-Ukraine conflict. How do we then have that marriage of conventional military versus non-conventional combat that is required today, sir?
Actually speaking, you got 2 questions that you asked me. One is about Sindoor.
Yes.
And second about the contemporary warfare.
Yes.
Do you want me to answer both?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me say about Operation Sindoor, let me give credit to our leadership that we had the strategic vision and we have taken the decision at the right time, right levels, that red lines were drawn. Zero tolerance on terrorism. Geographical boundaries or the depth up to which we can attack actually were all made very clear. So I must really compliment that we took that particular decision to define our red lines and that we will go to any extent to hit the terror hubs anywhere that may be, whether it's Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir or any portion of Pakistan. That's the first part I would say. Second, in this particular Operation Sindoor, political, economic, diplomatic, military, information and other instruments of the government, they all were on the same page. That we all acted together as a unified India to defeat the enemy's designs. That's another. Third, I must give a great amount of credit to the Indian Armed Forces. Yes. That we all acted together, whether Army, Air Force, Navy, as also the paramilitary forces which are deployed along the borders, whether the BSF and the others, that we again acted together. Now the point is, I want to quote Ramayana today, and I quote, "Opportunity and timings are the greatest weapons of a warrior. Do not miss either," unquote. This is a quote from the Ramayana. Unfortunately, because of the Pahalgam incident, we had this to punish Pakistan. Timing is another very important portion. My personal view is that if you want to derive maximum benefit with lesser amount of effort, we need to look at 2-pronged strategy. One, it should be an immediate retaliation, not to give them a breather, to convey our message. And second, as Pakistan has been doing all along, to bleed India by 1,000 cuts, we need to have a long-term strategy to defeat the designs that they continue to bleed us. So my view is these two should be considered, and this can only happen provided we carry out proper planning, preparation, and go ahead with it. Now you're coming to the second aspect of your question is about the contemporary warfare.
Yes.
Drawing from the experience of from the ongoing conflicts, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, and the surrounding other neighboring countries of Israel, Iran, and also Operation Sindoor. I would say that the contemporary warfare is just not kinetic engagement alone. It is non-kinetic, non-contact with irregular warfare. Also, there is a direct and indirect involvement of extra-regional powers,
yes,
which you have seen in the Middle East. Even in our case, they have been, during Operation Sindoor, in those 15 days, there's a great amount of support being given by China and Turkey to Pakistan, right? So there is a great amount of involvement of the extra-regional powers, right? Now, what should we do? We have a neighborhood with 2 nuclear armed states. We have a disputed border with them. We have fought wars with both, with Pakistan as well as with China.
Yes.
We have had border skirmishes with them. We have been countering low-intensity conflict, right? So what should we do? Therefore, we have to draw a correct balance between how much modernization of the armed forces or the conventional capability that we need to develop, one. A credible strategic deterrence, two. Third, how much should we invest in technology-enabled weapon systems, right? And hybrid warfare. In my personal view, I feel that we need to certainly have a quantum jump and a distinctive edge over our adversaries in development of technology-enabled systems like loiter munitions, precision-guided munitions, drones, counter-drone measures, also beyond visual range missile systems. Need to develop a intelligence and surveillance capability to a very good extent. Also good navigation systems. In addition to this, since I have commanded the formations in Uri, in Kargil, in Leh Ladakh, right up to the Karakoram Pass, we already are doing, we need to develop our infrastructure to a much better capability, which means a larger defense budget to be given for us to develop our physical connectivity and digital connectivity.
Right.
So that we have a better transparency and situational awareness all around. But when we do all that, we need to ensure that we have weapon systems which are cyber resilient.
Okay.
Now, that is something that we have to now keep considering. I am sure that with these being put into place, we should be far more operationally effective.
Okay. Lt General Ahluwalia, I also want to, we've discussed some of our problems in the north, as far as Pakistan-backed terrorism is concerned, and also our border skirmishes with both Pakistan and China. But there is also another pertinent issue that has been raised by our Home Minister over and over again, which is the problem of Nationalism in India. And there's a promise that has been made that by March of 2026, India will be Nationalism free. You've served in Naxal-infested, Maoist-infested areas as well. So I want to understand from your perspective, sir, firstly, what will it take to achieve that goal or that promise? I understand that it's always good to set deadlines because at least then it gives the motivation that is required to perhaps carry out the strikes that will be needed in those areas. But also, how realistic, in your perspective, is it for us to say that by 2026, we will be Naxalism free?
Actually, I think we need to, I agree with you that we need to lay down timelines to try and achieve an objective. At the same time, we have to understand what are the real problems existing in those areas. You see, while I was the Army Commander, Central Command, in 2010, 11, 12, the period 2009, 10, 11 were perhaps the bloodiest years of Naxal violence. There were so many losses. Over the years, we have taken good measures to improve the governance system, right? Therefore, the point over there is governance system to meet the aspirations of the people. Second is about the security environment, to put that together. I am of the view that we actually have a lot of work to do in these areas which are actually affected by Naxal violence. We have to actually bring up these areas to a very large level. Frankly, we need to compare the Human Development Index prevailing in those areas of Bastar, of large number of areas of Jharkhand, some areas of Odisha, some areas of Telangana adjoining, some areas of eastern Maharashtra, Gadchiroli, Gondia, those areas. Because there is a huge gap between the states which are leading in Human Development Index. And here is the case in our own country, in the heartland of the country, that there is a wide gap and they are very low. So unless we improve those, what is required to be improved? We need to improve the physical connectivity, digital connectivity, improve education facilities, improve healthcare, improve livelihood by way of employment, right? So all those also need to be addressed simultaneously. Only then would you find when economic activity is generated in those heartlands and the people have adequate amount of survival needs, they have an adequate amount of jobs, people are getting good facilities for medical care, you will find that things will start improving. To comment on this, whether it can be done in the next 7, 8 or 10 months, it will be very difficult, I think, in my view. But yes, we must have a timeline. But my personal view is that a lot more work needs to be done at the grassroots level for the project to get implemented.
But General Ahluwalia, is it possible to do that work at the grassroots level if the regions are still in the grip of Naxal leaders?
Yeah, there was the, my point is, first of all, they all are our country people, our own people. At the moment, the violence levels are much, much lower. It is time to talk to them.
Okay.
I think, in my view, it's time to talk to them and also ensure that, look at their aspirations, assure them that what all can be done for them. I want to give you an example. While I was the army commander, we inducted the first infantry brigade into the Naxal affected areas. This was in the month of June, July 2011, right? It was the first time that the army actually went over there, not for anti-Naxal operations, certainly not, because in 2011, army was fully engaged in Jammu and Kashmir, they engaged in northeast and all. We only went to carry out our jungle warfare training because those areas afford a good amount of jungle warfare training areas. And I must tell you that we made it quite clear that we are coming there primarily for our jungle warfare training. No Naxal rebels attacked any of our organizations. When we were camping over there, you will be surprised the number of patients who used to come to our medical center for treatment. Isn't that an indication?
Yes.
Isn't that an indication that we require to develop the health centers of that area? We were just about an infantry brigade, and so much amount of medical aid was sent across extra when we realized that the people were so much in need of it. I'm sure the government is already doing much to it, and hopefully with these few, just the very basic fundamental areas being looked into, things will certainly start improving.
Absolutely. Lieutenant Ahluwalia, I'm running
also,
out of
we need to improve, give a lot of focus on the culture, on the language, which they want to preserve. That must also be focused.
Okay, interesting. And hopefully I'll have a longer conversation with you about Naxalism when we get a chance to meet next. But since I'm running out of time, I just want to end up a little bit, with the focus a little bit back on the book. There are several instances of human emotion and human relation that you've dwelled upon in this book. One would expect that that an army commander would write about extremely heavy topics, as we've just discussed, about Uri, about terrorism, about Kargil, Leh, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh. But you've managed to sort of bring a very human aspect to your book. So congratulations to you for that, because then it becomes a different kind of a read for people such as myself. But if you were to pick a few people from your time in the military in your life, who would you say have had the most impact on you and why?
First of all, I want to say about the book, as you mentioned. The book is not all about national security, military strategy or tactics. It is a lot more about leadership, about resilience, about perseverance, about positive mindset, positive actions, exploring new areas, traveling and meeting people, empowering the youth of the country, as also navigating human relations. So I think that is, you would find a great amount in this book. Now, you were wanting to know, the second aspect was?
of certain people, if you could perhaps
Okay.
pick one or two
Yeah.
people.
I would like to say that I have had the advantage of serving under some very illustrious, legendary, iconic leaders from the military. I have served with General S. Sunit Francis Rodericks when he was the Chief of the Army Staff. On his personal staff, had a very close look at his way. And one thing I would say that he was a great visionary, and he had a great amount of compassion, and one learnt a lot while serving with him. And while I was commanding the infantry brigade in Uri, we had two wonderful commanders, whether they were the div commander or the co-commanders, General Johnny Mukherjee, the co-commander in Srinagar, General Patankar, the co-commander in Srinagar, and throughout the time that I was the brigade commander, General Rostam Nanavati was the army commander. I would say that under his watch, we did nothing but only operations. That was the total focus, no frills, no ceremonial things, only operation to focus only on our work. I think that is the kind of a culture which actually gives you a great amount of satisfaction. It's not only him, even when I was commanding my regiment, I found my own brigade commander, General J.S. Verma. He said that the litmus test of a battalion or a regiment lies in operations. That, I must tell you, are the ethos of the Indian Armed Forces today. And I am proud that we were part of that.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, General Ahluwalia, for taking out the time to speak to NewsX. And viewers, General's Odyssey, Giving Up is Not an Option, is now available in bookstores near you. It's also available online. So many congratulations to you, sir, once again, for putting together this memoir for people like me out there to get a glimpse into how military life can be so much more beyond just very heavy topics of national security, which is of course important, but to get a slightly different glimpse into your life as an army commander.
Thank you
so
so very
much for your service to the nation.
Thank you, Devika.
रास्ता है वही, वही शहर